Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone. I'm your host, Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai.
And we have a special guest in studio today. Say hello.
I am Craig Blanchett.
Is he special anymore?
No, Craig, is your third appearance?
Hey.
Fourth? Well, actually, I can't even count.
That makes me more special. No.
Nope, sorry, it
true.
makes you less special, which means that Jimmy and I,
My mom
not
thinks I'm
special at
special.
all.
Not special at all.
Your mom does think you're special.
Yeah. So today we are going to be answering user questions, and you guys did an incredible job.
Holy crap.
You flooded the at reply box.
I thought we'd get like, I don't know, 10.
Nope.
We got like 70 questions.
Yeah, and they still came in, and it was great. It was great, too, because...
We had to cut it off.
Yeah, someone was like, oh, I got him right before 8 p.m., because we had to cut off at 8 p.m.
Oh, yeah,
but
we
it was
forgot to say Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
You barely made it, man, only by 3 hours.
Yeah, you made it from, I think you must have been in the Midwest. I was like, all right, cool.
He wasn't wrong. He did make it.
He definitely did make it.
He did make it.
But yeah, I super appreciated that. I thought that was great.
Yeah, so we're going to actually split this up because there's so many questions. So
And they're
we're
all
gonna,
very good as well.
Yeah, so we're going to split this up over 2 episodes because otherwise there would be one limited resources set review length episode,
Yeah.
which means like 4.5 hours.
We love 4.5 hour podcasts.
So we're going to, this will be 2 weeks, but anybody who gets their question answered will receive a prize.
A prize.
They'll receive stuff. And so what you're going to do is if you hear your name or your Twitter handle, we don't always have everybody's name, then we're going to need you to email the show at CommandCast@rocketjump.com. You're going to have to email us your address
Yep.
because otherwise we can't send the prize. And by we, I mean Jimmy. Jimmy does the prizes. So I should say that. I should stop taking credit for the prizes.
I do sign your name on the thing, though, when I send
do?
it out. Yeah, I said Jimmy and Josh. Or
Nice.
sometimes Josh and Jimmy. I can't decide what I like better sounding. It doesn't even matter
You can
the
put your
order.
name
I just
first, man. You can put your name first. It's
I
fine.
just want to hear the one that sounds more aesthetically pleasing.
Well, it's alliteration, so it's impossible.
It's
like,
true.
It's
I
just
mean-
going to sound good.
But Garfunkel and Simon does not sound as good.
That's true. Well, would it? We don't know.
That's-
because,
yeah, that's true.
I know something that sounds good.
That sounds like a booster.
Oh man,
that sounds like a booster pack.
That one sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's tight. That was great.
This is a Modern Masters booster pack that I grabbed off the shelf on my way over here today, and I want to throw it into the prize pool. So at least one person will get this Modern Masters booster pack, which I assume has a foil Goif in it.
Obviously,
I think that's a safe assumption.
I think most of them do, right?
Right.
That's why these cost so much, because they all have one foil Goif in them.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. Yeah, this is beautiful.
I have opened up so much of that. Like I've drafted that 4 or 5 times. I opened up
Lucky.
a box. Like I have never gotten a Goif.
Not even a regular one?
Not even a regular one.
I got one online, but not in real life. And yeah, I probably opened.
I
bet
thought you meant you
myself
like bought it on eBay.
No.
I was like, Josh, that
Sorry,
doesn't
on
count.
MTGO.
Yeah, that's right.
I drafted it and I got a regular Goif. But in real life, I probably personally cracked at least 2 boxes worth of boosters just in drafts and stuff.
Yeah.
And I never got a Goif either. One
Yeah.
Dark Confidant.
Oh, that's
Okay.
pretty good though.
Yeah,
I mean,
never
you
got a Bob either. I never got a Bob.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Well, you should have sent in a question and you'd have a chance to win this booster pack.
Darn
you
it.
would have got it, man.
Maybe I did, man.
It's such a guarantee too. It's the
You have
command.
an alias?
It's the
Yeah.
command zone guarantee. But outside of the person that receives that lucky Modern Masters booster, we're also sending out regular boosters. We've got sets present and old. We also have some Innistrad boosters in the mix, as well as a big pile of sweet rares and random foils. And you get a bunch of those tossed in as
Maybe
well.
even a playmat.
Maybe get a play mat. We still have some Funko Pop figures. Someone might receive a Commander 2014 product. We have the green deck
Oh, nice.
sitting in the box waiting to be shipped out to someone.
You can build the Titania deck.
Yeah.
Build the Titania one. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And of course, you guys can find all this out if you follow us at CommandCast. We know that the people that are actively competing don't want to spread out the word so that their chances are better. It makes sense. So, it's the magic play. It's the right play to make. But we need you guys to help us out. So just at CommandCast, we tweet out all this stuff. We do giveaways about once a month. So
That's true. If you weren't following us on Twitter, you never even would have known
that's right.
to send in your question, and you couldn't have entered to win. So that is a reason right there to follow us on Twitter. So
It's a good reason.
yeah, at JF Wong, at Josh Lee Kwai, at CommandCast. You want to follow all 3 so you have a chance to win stuff.
Big prizes.
Big money.
It's funny. We love gambling, and I I've stopped cracking boosters for value.
I'm gonna have to take that pack away from you. It looks like you're about to open it.
It looks so. It's
Every time
so
you touch
close.
it, I can see your eyes like light up, and I'm like, I don't trust.
It's all
you
about getting
with
the
that.
perfect opening. All right, let's get on to the questions, guys. So the first one comes from Shivam Bot at Electrodal. And one last thing before we answer questions, we have the lovely Abby Drake asking them on the microphone. So you guys are going to get some great dramatic interpretations as we go through.
Plus,
because-
it'll sound a lot better than our
exactly.
gross voices.
We're just, you guys want to talk about magic cards.
Please, Abby, save us.
Yeah, save us. All right, take it away, Abby.
How do you tune decks differently for 1v1 versus multiplayer?
It's a great question.
Easy. You go infect with 1v1, and in multiplayer, you go regular damage.
Of course you do.
Craig, actually, we've talked about Craig many times on the show. He has like 40 commander decks, or at one point he did. How many of those, literally, not exaggeration, how many of those at the height of your, the amount of decks you had, how many were infect?
I think there were 9.
9.
9.
He had
Wow.
9
That's
infected
25% of the field.
You pulled one out the other night. You almost killed me on like
true.
turn 5. I had to
Yeah,
totally
but I
go off,
didn't. I
draw
mean,
20 cards, somehow manage
That's
to block
the thing
it.
is that so that deck, I have had that deck for a long time and fine-tuned the crap out of that deck. And that deck 1v1 is
Yeah, unbelievable.
unbeatable. Like other than Infect Rafik, which is amazing. This was Infect
That sounds
Mimeoplasm. And it has all the duels, like it is fast. And
It's really fast.
and I wasn't able to pull it off. In 4-player games you can't do it, but in 1v1 you can.
I
And-
think Infect is a perfectly reasonable and viable strategy to kill someone with.
One of the reasons why I am such an Infect person is because when I would play, most of the games that I have played of Magic, well, I shouldn't say this because I played a lot in the card shops when we created Top Decking, but a lot of it was played 1v1 against Sam
Right.
or Alex Kessler or Jimmy. I mean, like, I play 1v1 a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Infect is just like, if you're tired of losing,
It's
you
brutal.
just
I mean, you're
switch
going to
to
win in
Infect.
1v1.
It is
yeah.
brutal. And here's the thing, like, what in a field where people are making their generals hit you for like 26 damage, it's just something ridiculous. Like, Infect is also a viable strategy and also very affordable. I should mention.
Yeah.
Like those 9 Infect decks, I bet you could equate the value together outside of like the staples that may cost a lot in each color.
All
but
9 of them, if I took out the dual lands, they would be equivalent to like one of my other decks.
yeah. So 1v1 Infect is a great strategy.
I think in general, just 1v1's a lot faster and
Yeah.
multiplayer's a lot slower. So if you're building your deck specifically for 1v1, you can't put stuff that you would normally put in a big multiplayer deck. Like
Yeah.
Insurrection is garbage in a 1v1
Oh, yeah.
deck. And not just because it's only stealing creatures from one player, it's also just because it costs so much mana and you're less likely to get there. 1v1 just gets more similar to Legacy or Modern or Standard even than a multiplayer deck, which is going to
yeah.
you just have
I
a
think
lot
the
more
price
leeway
tag
to do
goes
a lot
way
more.
up 1v1 as well because a lot of the faster cards.
are the cards that are used in other formats,
Right.
and therefore they are more they're more in demand. Because if it's only a commander card, then the demand is a lot lower than if that card's also used
Yeah.
in Modern and Legacy, and now all of a sudden there's just so many more players that want that card that it just pushes the price up.
Yeah.
So,
A card
yeah.
like Snapcaster Mage or Stoneforge Mystic are all sort of that tier of card that are both very playable in both formats, especially in Commander.
Yeah.
So 1v1 typically low command cost generals, things of that nature, where you're
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you really want to tune for 1v1, then somebody like Alicia, the new legendary creature who only costs 3 and brings bounces back or brings back 2 power stuff from your graveyard is great.
Yeah.
Maybe not as good in a big multiplayer game just because her board impact is smaller. It's just that you're trading the amount of impact for the time at which that impact comes. So yeah, I really think 1v1 you just want to be way faster.
Yep. Keep your commander under 4 mana.
stuff like Swords to Plowshare is way better in 1v1
Yeah,
too.
good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Because we've talked about this a lot of times too. Whereas if you're playing with 5 people and you Swords to Plowshare or something, well, you and that person both lost a card. You lost Swords to Plowshares. They lost whatever creature you hit with it.
Yeah.
But then the other 2 or 3 people didn't lose anything. So they're just
Hanging out.
they're just above you guys now. They're just have an advantage on you.
Yeah.
And if you do that a few times, then all of a sudden you can be in a big hole to everybody else just because you've wasted cards on 1-for-1s.
Yeah, and the interesting balance here is that you still need those cards, right? Like you're not going to run a deck that plays white and not have at least swords or path in there, right? Like there's no reason not to. So
But
it's
in a
interesting.
1v1 deck, you might have even more of that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Both
And it's
and-
interesting. I think tuning for multiplayer, you do need to also make sure that you have cards that can deal with one-on-one threats, because oftentimes having removal for a specific kind of thing is incredibly important if you're trying to stretch the field.
But in multiplayer, you might not need both swords and path and, terror and murder. And, you'd switch out a couple of those and put in Wrath of God and Damnation and Toxic Deluge, because those are basically stuff that could kill one creature, but more often than not, you're just going to want to kill, 12 creatures at once. So
Yeah. And those are the cards that we usually talk on the show that are sort of the staples, like Cyclonic Rift, like stuff that just affects everything. Although I would say that card is actually great for 1v1 and multiplayer.
yeah, because it has it's a modal card basically.
Yeah.
Where it says, well, you can just unsummon one thing, or you can unsummon all their things if it's later on in the game. Yeah.
Great question. All
Shivam
right.
actually has a second question.
All right. But you only get one prize, Shivam.
Yeah, you don't get 2 prizes for questions, everybody, for 2 questions.
But
Sorry.
you get 2 high fives from us
You do?
for 2 questions.
Okay.
Each question comes with a high five. If you get 2 in there, 2 high fives.
I
You
should
get a
note
high
that
10.
Shivam is actually plays at the LGS that the professor from Tolarian
Oh, really?
Community College plays at. Yeah, he
Oh,
tweeted us
awesome.
about that. So they're evidently well acquainted with each other.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, without further ado, Shivam's second question.
What's the best way to get card draw in white and red?
These are the 2 worst colors for card draw.
Font of Mythos and
Howling Mine.
Mine.
I would say go to artifacts for the very first.
Mind's
Maybe.
Eye.
Always go for artifacts at first, and then see what your
Mind's
color
Eye is
has.
really good. I do like what you said, Craig, though, because a lot of people shy away from things like Font of Mythos and Howling Mine. Both those, if you don't know what they are, Font of Mythos makes everybody draw 2 extra cards every turn. Not just you, but everybody. Howling Mine makes everybody draw 1 extra card per turn. So people don't shy away from those because they think, oh, I don't want everybody to draw cards. Only I want to draw cards. But if you're in a color or a combination of colors that's bad at card drawing, then it's actually better for everybody to draw more cards than it is for you to not draw extra cards at all. Because trust me, their decks already have Consecrated Sphinx and crap like that that's going to draw them like 27 cards. So 2 extra cards to them is not as big a deal as it is to you.
Yeah, you really need it, especially if you're going to go mono in those colors.
Yeah.
Even.
Mentor for the Meek
Yeah,
is a
Mentor
good
for the Meek
one.
is a great one.
Chandra, Pyromaster, basically draws you an extra card. The new
Right.
Siege, Outpost Siege,
which is
in
seeing
red.
a lot of play in standard
Yeah,
as well.
because
which
it's
is
just
great.
red card draw. You don't have that.
I would even say you can go riskier with red because red always punishes you for card draw, but it definitely has card draw. Wheel of Fortune is the
Wheel of
classic
Fortune's awesome.
red card draw card. Yeah,
It's another card that people shy away from because they're like, I don't want to discard my hand.
it's like sometimes in Commander you do want to discard your hand,
Or
and
your
we've all
hand's
had that
2
moment.
cards,
Yeah,
and you'll draw 7.
Yeah.
Wheel of Fortune says everybody discards their hand and draws 7 new cards.
Yeah.
So it does a lot of things. One is if you're down to 2 cards, it just actually drew you 5 cards, even
Yeah.
if you like the 2 cards in your hand. The other thing is that dude that has Consecrated Sphinx and has 27 cards in his hand, he discards 27 cards and draws only 7.
yeah.
So it evens the playing field in that way. So that's really good.
Yeah. And there's also, I would even say, Humble Defector from Fate Reforged.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
play around with that. If you like correctly put that on the table and talk to people, like this is what's gonna happen, and like maybe I'll share it with other people, but like you can like give it to other people. It's like I'm just gonna use it. And
I'm going to use it. I'll
strike
give
a
it
deal,
to you.
maybe.
Maybe
Yeah.
you'll give
You
it
can
back to
give
me.
it
That'd
yeah.
be great. And then we're just drawing cards, and screw those other guys.
Yeah, and you have a sack outlet anyway, so it's like I don't even need to give it to you technically, but I will. Like let it resolve or whatever. So there's lots of fun stuff you can do there.
Land tax is another one I would say
Oh my gosh.
from white. If people don't think of that as card draw because it only draws you specifically lands, but lands are cards.
Yep.
So
And it
it's
does
a
thin
very
out
very
your deck
powerful.
and guarantee you that you have mana now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that card also you get a lot of your deck thinned. It's actually significant because
Yeah.
you're getting 3 each time that thing triggers. It's pretty nuts.
All right. Next question. This is from Matt Book at Matt Book on Twitter. He says,
When constructing a new deck, do you build it for 1v1, multiplayer, or both?
Depends on who you're playing with.
Craig, you've probably built more new decks than Jimmy and I combined since you
Yes.
you had about 1 million.
I'm at 6.
I have built them for both. So I started out building a multiplayer because I started out playing at a card shop. Started talking to the guy about what I had, and he was like, "Oh, dude, you should play EDH. I was like, dude, that sounds awesome. So I put together a deck, brought it in. Of course, I had put in a bunch of stuff that was illegal because there was a ban list at that point.
You're just like, this Titan thing.
Primeval Titan was not banned at that point. It was Innistrad block was when I got back in.
But what would you say
So-
to somebody if they were starting tomorrow?
I
What would
would
be your advice?
I would say, first of all, consider if you're playing just you and your brother, then 1v1. But if you're able to play with a bunch of people, build it multiplayer because 1v1 games get stale real fast. It's as soon as you know the commander, you know exactly how to take care of it, and one person is typically going to win all the time.
Yeah, I like the thing about stale because 1v1 definitely gets stale. I build almost all my decks with the idea of multiplayer, and then I'll make some concessions to be like, well, this one I will keep in this sort of 1v1s.
Yeah.
Like, I have like 3 decks that I'm like, if it's 1v1, these are the one. I'll play one of these 3 decks, but neither of them is like, this is a 1v1 deck. It's just these are the ones that I sort of made a few more concessions so that it could play 1v1.
Exactly, and I've actually since split my decks up into 3 or less players and bigger games, 4 or more players, and there are definitely decks that do better in 3 or less or 4 or more.
All right. Our next question comes from Nick Canner and his Twitter symbol, guys, at Nick Canner. Nice, dude. Keeping it simple.
Hey, don't make fun of people who just use their name.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm JF Wong.
I'm Craig at Craig Blanchett.
Oh, right. We didn't shout out Craig at the beginning of the show. Follow
Yeah.
Craig at Craig Blanchett. He'll tweet at you like once a month.
But it'll be a nice
Maybe.
retweet that will have no
That's
edits.
true. Actually, if you follow Craig, he is a retweet machine.
Yeah.
How about that?
How about that?
He's
and
there
I
for
like
you.
stuff.
Yeah, there we go. You're an important part of the economy, Craig. Don't
Thank
downplay
you.
yourself.
Thank you.
All right, so Nick Canner asks,
When building decks that are vulnerable to types of hate, such as graveyard or artifact strategies, what precautions do you take?
so there are a lot of cards out there that I like to use, but the problem is that these cards, there aren't that many of them. I think the best is like, let's say your deck is heavily dependent on enchantments. You're going to want Replenish in there because it's like it's a save all that even if you only lost 2 enchantments, but they might have been important, it's nice you can get 2 back. If you lost everything because people have been Nevs disking left and right, getting them all back is almost assuredly like you're going to win in a single turn. So having cards that obviously get your stuff back is great, but when people are getting rid of your graveyard, what do you do, Craig?
When people get rid of your graveyard, that's really tough. I mean, I think there's one thing that I could recommend here that I used to put in my decks that worked really well, but it only works if you can kind of sneak it in or if it's late in the game. And that's an Eldrazi that makes you shuffle your graveyard into your library and a sack outlet.
So you can do that in response.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you can do that in response.
Elixir of Immortality does it.
Yeah,
there's a few cards that do
Or
it.
if you're running black, then you can, run Entomb. Yeah, you throw Entomb in there, and you can Entomb the Eldrazi for 1 black.
Oh, so that it can be anywhere in your deck.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because the Entomb goes and finds it in your deck and puts it in your library.
As an
not from
instant
your hand,
too.
yeah.
So
I think though it's interesting, but the problem with a deck that doesn't want graveyard hate wants stuff in its graveyard specifically. So that doesn't really solve your problem because they're usually just as happy if you do that. Because if you're playing Sidisi or something, like BDM Sidisi deck, and they go to wipe out your graveyard and you shuffle your graveyard into your deck, they're like, same thing because you just don't have a graveyard. So you can't do all that recursion like shenanigans that you were going to do. So graveyard is really tough. He's just asking about general hate, though. So, like, if you're building an artifact deck, like your Memnarch deck,
and someone has Vandal
you
Blast.
know that, like, Shatterstorm, Vandal Blast, all these things are a problem. What do you do to mitigate, like, the weakness of the deck, whatever it may be? Because you mentioned enchantments.
hate.
I may have, like, a token deck, and I know that I'm, really weak to board wipes, and we talk about this all the time, which is, like, if you know that, first step is identifying what your big weakness is. And then the second step is figuring out how to deal with it.
So I'm lucky with Memnarch because it's mono blue and I can throw in counter spells. I mean, that is my answer in Memnarch. I'm lucky enough to be able to throw in counter spells. But
You're lucky enough. What
but
a
in mono
statement. It's true.
in mono red, there's nothing you can really do to prevent against artifact.
I don't know if
hate.
you've ever heard this card called Pyroblast. It's a great counter spell. Oh wait, just blue spells.
It only counters blue spells. I think like the important thing is you identify what that weakness is.
Yeah.
And then you go find the cards that shore up that weakness and you need a certain amount of them. And what that ratio is, how many you need, is really going to depend on your play group or what is out there. But in general, if it's a token deck, I want 5, 6, maybe 7 cards that either give all my stuff indestructible or make it all regenerate or in some way protect it from a board wipe, because I know that's just going to be a problem that I'm going to have.
Or, I mean, if you know that it's going to get messed with and thrown in your graveyard, graveyard hate is tough. But if you know stuff's going to get thrown in your graveyard, which most stuff is over the game, having some way to get stuff back from your graveyard is always a good strategy.
Yeah, because it's true. Because like if you have stuff thrown in there early and the deck you're playing has graveyard hate, maybe they just haven't drawn it yet. So if you're able to get it back before, if you can act before they can find the card that doesn't, then you are safe in a way.
Yeah, I think also like that's a good thing to say is if your deck is really built on like 1 or 2 key cards, then that's a weakness of your deck. Just like an artifacts deck's weakness is it has a lot of artifacts. An enchantment deck it has a lot of enchantments. And so a deck may have a weakness of like, I need one of these 2 cards on the table for my deck to function. Yeah. And so a way to sort of shore up that weakness is to have a way to always get those cards back. You might play a couple cards that get things out of exile, even those are pretty narrow, but it just may be like if this one card gets exiled, I'm screwed. So I just need to always have access to some way to get it wherever it is. So I need a way to get it out of the graveyard. I need a way to get it out of my deck, and I need a way to get it out of exile. But those are specific cards. Some decks are just built on a strategy, and that's like tokens. And then you need to sort of just identify that weakness and then put, you're going to have to play with that number. Yeah. But my guess is it's somewhere around 5 to 7 cards that protect you from that one big glaring weakness.
Yep, and it's also like you can also play in a certain way that is more conservative if you're in a multiplayer game and you know that someone is really packing graveyard hate. You can play in a way that doesn't abuse your graveyard to the point where someone is forced to act. Yeah, because someone has a lot of other priorities on the table. Like the guy next to him could just be hammering at him with Sigarda and he doesn't care about your graveyard. He's not going to play that graveyard spell over something that could save his life. So play in a way that also doesn't get you killed by the kind of hate that would really hurt your day, if that makes sense. Our next question comes from Tower Huffham, and he is at Tower Huffham on Twitter.
If you had to add one card to the ban list, what would it be and why?
I have one, but
I have one too, but I just don't know.
I don't want to say.
I don't want to say it either because I play it
because I love it.
I can't. How dare you ask us this, Tower?
Because I feel like if I say it out loud, then I'm putting it out to the universe that it should be banned, and then it's going to get banned, and then I'm not going to be able to play it, and then I'm going to be so mad at myself.
No, because people can take care of it with a Swords to Plowshares or a kill spell.
I wonder if we have the same card.
Probably not.
I'm thinking of. There's 3 possibilities in my head, and one of them is out of the box, but another one that's in the box. I think you guys probably would say.
Let's all count down from 3, and we'll all say it at once.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
All right, so let's go 3, 2, 1. Say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Sarah
Prophet of Krufix. We did have the same one.
Sarah Ascendant.
Oh, Sarah Ascendant. That was my second choice. That was my out-of-the-box choice.
Yeah,
Sarah
Prophet of
Ascendant.
Krufix is unbelievable,
Is that what you said?
Yeah, I said Prophet of Krufix.
I was like, 2 people said Prophet. I thought it was me and Craig, but I got confused.
Nope.
Sarah Ascendant is yours.
Yeah,
well,
that was my,
Craig, why don't you go through your reasoning first, and then...
So, Sarah Ascendant, turn 1, somebody gets it out. It is brutal. I mean, in a one-on-one game, it is a decider in
even in a 3-player game.
Even in a 3-player game, because now you're
honestly.
jacking your life up to 46 and then 52 and then 58.
Yeah.
And
pretty intense.
And they're dropping 6 or 7 at a time. And by the time you get your strategy off, maybe you give it double strike or something like that, then it just starts getting insane. I don't know. Sarah Ascendant has won me a lot of games very, very quickly.
It's really not super fun when that happens either for anybody.
Right.
It's just like it feels totally unfair. Like you have the Sarah Ascendant. It's like, I mean, what card can they have that's not like if they don't have an instant speed
some
removal,
sort of kill spell or instant speed removal?
What if they're playing red and they're like,
I can't lightning bolt that thing.
Can't bolt it. Yeah.
I can't whatever else, and I'm just like, okay, I play my second land, go.
The card's inherent design.
My third land, I play a mana rock, and I'm at I'm at 16 life, and you're at. That's the problem too. Is the lifelink is a huge thing because the hole is so deep.
Further into the. I'm sorry, it's always going to be a 6/6 territory.
Yeah.
And it was designed in an era where it's one of those cards that like that card was not made
for Commander.
before Commander was
Oh,
like here.
but
you know what I
my
mean?
goodness, when you get it after you're below 30 life,
Oh,
it
it's
is
very
such a
sad.
disappointing, like little man, girl, whatever it is.
He's like trying to
man.
lift off, but he's like,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Trying to
I'm
ascend.
still on the
I can't
ground.
ascend. I can't
I
ascend.
can't do it.
I still
Then
got
it's
life
Sarah
link though. I'm
descend.
gaining you one life every
Yes.
time.
Oh man, that was good.
All right. Let's talk about.
The Prophet.
You
Proofy.
talk about it because
Sure.
I love that card.
I do too, and every time I played it and it hasn't been killed in one turn round, has won me the game. It's like, I'd say like 90% of the time when I get the Prophet out, because I'm playing it when I want to make sure that
Yes.
I can have it out
Yes.
for that one turn
when you've
cycle.
got card draw,
Yeah.
like
The
people-
fact that it allows you to cast things at instant speed
Yes.
to protect it is nuts. So many cards can do that with it.
it's crazy. It gives you basically unlimited mana.
Ugh.
And it gives you, and so you can play all your cards. So the tempo swing is so ridiculous. If you have any card draw and you put the Prophet down, then you can keep your hand full.
Yeah.
And you can simultaneously play all the stuff.
Yeah.
Card
Yeah.
draw in the Prophet that's like the happiest you can get playing
Yeah.
EDH. You're just like, yes,
Yes. and
yes,
you're in green
everything
and
is
blue.
possible now.
Like, yeah. You
It
can play
is,
this
it's
card
amazing.
in Edric.
She's
like,
Mary Poppins.
That's
Yeah.
how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
It's true. It demands removal, and it demands it in a way that is kind of brutal because let's say I play the Prophet, I say pass.
Now
goes to the
I
next
have all
person's
my
turn.
land
You get,
available
now
now.
all your lands are available, and I have them all too. And I'm like, great, come at me, bro. And you're like,
Yeah.
you cast something like Restoration Angel. I'm going to bounce it. But like things that essentially like you can rescue
could-
it with
you- yeah,
creatures.
you
you
could
can
Flicker
rescue
Wisp
it.
it.
Yeah, you can do anything you wanted with it because you can cast all these creatures at flash speed, and it's insane.
Or not to mention just having your mana available, and you're in blue. We know
Yeah.
because you got the Prophet. So that just means like you can have counterspell. You could. There's just it's so tough. I mean, a lot of times even if they do end up killing it, like
You've
but
gotten
you
your
got
use out of
four
it.
turn. You got 4 other people's turns. You just think of how much mana. Let's say we all have 7 mana out. I play the Prophet, and then I say go, and then the next 3 players go. Well, everybody else got to use their 7 mana. I got to use 28 mana in that time.
Yeah.
So how many turns ahead am I? Like it's the equivalent of taking extra turns. I mean, you don't get the card draw and the combat phases, but you get the tempo of like 4 extra turns. You know, that's why I think she's pretty broken.
It's like you're playing a brutal AI. It's like the computer turns on hard mode. Where It's
Yeah.
like, guess what? He's taking turns every time you're taking a turn.
Yeah,
He
it's
just can't attack you. It's like, whoa, that is pretty insane. And so I think
that's not even talking about the untapping your creatures part of it,
Yeah.
which is totally abusable. I build a whole deck around that, which is like if you have activated abilities on your creatures, now all of a sudden, instead of using rune only once,
Oh, gosh.
you can use rune everybody else's turn. Plus, it gives you the mana to use rune. Like it can get into insane territory like so quickly.
Yeah. I just want to make a special mention to mana rocks such as Mana Crypt,
Mana Crypt, yeah.
you Soul
lose 3
Ring,
life.
which will never be banned, but is just like so unbelievably powerful. If you don't have a Soul Ring in every deck,
What are you doing? With
what are
your
you
life?
doing?
You're building
Wizards
it wrong.
package them with each deck for a reason. It's true, actually. Soul Ring is banned in some 1v1 formats because it's like if you get Sarah Ascendant out. It's just a 1-drop that is too powerful and accelerates you too quickly and in a way that is potentially game ending. And it's so much like, think about if you had to track win percentages, if you dropped the Soul Ring on turn 1, if you would just win more in general, it would definitely be a yes.
Well, I think it's pretty common in 1v1 for people to go to their deck when they're about to play 1v1 and just take the Soul Rings out because it becomes such a coin flip. The guy or girl that gets the Soul Ring out on turn 1 is just such an overwhelming advantage in a 1v1 match that, a lot of people do that. I know, which is like if you're playing 1v1, you just go and take the Soul Rings out because you don't want the game to be decided on like, did I draw that?
yeah, you're 2 turns ahead.
Yeah,
for 1 mana.
It's literally considered by many the most powerful Magic card of all time. Even above things like Black Lotus.
We're still talking about the Prophet of Krufix, right?
No, Soul Ring.
I'm just kidding. All right. The next
Tower
question.
Huffam was pretty prolific with the questions. We got a few
Yes.
more from him or
So
her.
more high fives to you, Tower. By the way, cool name, man. Girl. I have no idea. Tower would be a sweet name for a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, on to the next question. Abby, take it away.
When is the best time to break off an alliance?
When it benefits you the most.
Well, you have to be careful, though.
You gotta
that
be
you
so
can't always
careful.
do that because, one thing I think people don't realize, our buddy Matt Arnold is kind of like this, is there's this really big meta game that goes on So there's the metagame of your playgroup, which basically the metagame of your playgroup is the memory that your playgroup has of all the past games that it's ever played. And then there's actually the metagame above that, which is all the past games, not just of EDH, but of every other game that you've played with the same people, like League of Legends or
Monopoly.
Monopoly, or
Risk,
Ascension, Dominion, Risk, all that stuff. And so if somebody backstabs you in that huge metagame, like in any of it, you remember it forever. Like you don't forget that. So
I will never trust Eli, the editor of this, ever again because of a game that I played with him
of
once.
Resistance.
Of Resistance. Right. I would like that man. That man is a lovely man, but I cannot trust him.
Yeah, the way that he lied, we won't go into specifics, in that particular game
in one incident
means that you will never 100% trust him. I wasn't even there, and that still affects me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's the stuff that legends are made of.
Yeah.
It's like...
So that's something people need to understand is that's how meta games work. And so when you make an alliance with somebody in the game, you have to be very careful not to, when you break that alliance, not to make it so they won't ally with you ever again in subsequent games that you're going to play years from now. Mm-hmm. So...
Yeah. You got to justify when you break up alliances. It's really interesting because in a way it's like, hey, remember that friendship we had? We're terminating it.
See, I am the worst at this. And I think in our playgroup, Josh is the best at this. And Jim, you lie somewhere in the middle.
No, I'm at the front end of your version of it all the time. That's
absolutely
what happens.
the worst at
It's
this.
the worst.
Because I don't care what happens. I just want to see my deck play off.
Well, you
know?
don't make a lot of alliances to begin with.
Yeah.
And it might be because people know that about you. Like Craig's the master of gonna roll the dice and then hit you.
Yeah,
and then
roll
if
the
it's
dice
the
of
infect deck,
infect,
then you're the target for him from then on. And there's not a lot of negotiating you can do.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Because he's forced into it, right?
Yeah, he's forced into it, and you're forced.
And here's another thing, you know,
ride
when you're
has
playing
started.
multiplayer, there is something to be said, and I think the games, the games that we're talking about weren't Secret Partners, but especially in Secret Partners, you have to kind of do the latch on dog effect, where as soon as you like bite down on the juggler, you have
can't
to
let go.
You have
That's
to hold
infect,
on.
though.
Yeah,
That's
that's infect.
Oh, that's definitely infect.
That's also just Craig, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case with most of the other, like a lot of decks. You can spread your damage around. You can make it. You know, Jimmy manages to attack a lot of people, and everybody doesn't get.
But
mad.
with a few generals like my
disposition.
Rafik deck, or with Gisela or something like that, where you're know, typically hitting somebody like twice and then they're dead.
It doesn't make sense to spread the wealth
right?
around.
You do have to do the latch on.
I mean, going back to the question, I think like one of the important parts that people forget about this is the moment when you make the alliance.
Right.
You know, that's what I do is you make the alliance, and when you make the alliance, you lay down a rough groundwork for what the term of that alliance is going to be.
I try to forget that moment as quickly as possible, which may be why I.
Yeah, but I mean, you do things like you're like, hey, we got to kill that thing, right? Yeah, and as soon as that thing's dead, then we'll go back to normal.
The royal we, we're not really talking. Just like, hey, look, we both see what's going on here.
Yeah, we need to kill that thing, and as soon as that thing's dead, then everything can go back to how it is now.
I often find that the best alliance is one that is made with more than one person. Because now you're mob mentality. Now you may be going against someone else, and that hapless person, unfortunately, is going to receive the brute end of it. And we've actually answered the question about when this becomes like a bullying tactic.
Right.
And it just happens too much. But in general, I mean, that's the great part about Commander. I tend to try and forget and forgive and just, go into each round somewhat new, unless it's Craig. And I always have an eye open when I sleep with you, Craig.
There's also there's one thing that happened in a game with me and Jim, which makes him never trust me ever.
Yeah.
Just a lot of mill. Mill.
Yep.
What a great
And
way to
that
lose
is-
the game of
that's
Magic the
meta.
Gathering.
That's the meta. You have to be careful about, because
Yeah.
you didn't even break any promises that you'd made when you milled them out. We've talked about this on the show long ago, but Craig milled Jimmy to death not once, but twice in the same night in 2 separate games. And the second time was what put it into the realm of like, okay,
I will never forget this guy.
Jimmy will never forget that, and it'll always be there in the back of his mind. Meta's a big thing. It's a big part of making alliances. I also think people fail at this part a lot, and it's a really easy thing to do, is just when you are breaking the alliance, give them something.
Yeah.
If you give nothing, they'll hate you forever. I mean, quote unquote, hate you. It's a game, but they'll remember it forever. But if you say, listen, we had an alliance, dude, but I mean, look at your board. You're going to destroy us if I don't do something. I'm sorry, I have to do it. Just an I'm sorry. Just that I'm sorry will
Yeah.
get you out of that doghouse. They'll be a little bit mad at you, but they won't remember it for 2 weeks from now, or 2 months from now, or 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give them something that costs you nothing.
It's also fun to take an alliance with someone and then make another alliance with someone else against the original person
Yeah.
you allied with.
See,
But you can pull all that stuff off
Yep.
if you just frame it.
I would even recommend allying with the same people you usually ally with.
Yeah, that can.
yeah,
can
'Cause
help.
that's a meta
figure out
play
who's
too.
good. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a meta play too. You have a sort of general agreement. It's like, we allied last time. It worked out pretty well. I know I can trust you. You know you can trust me.
Yeah.
That's what being trustworthy, quote unquote, that's what it does for you. And again, this is all based on meta.
Yeah. And one final thing, and this is just like general advice in games, like people break alliances and it's about what's promised that really matters, because here's the thing, everyone's
Yes.
going to try to win at some point, so it's going to get broken. You're going to have a promise broken or whatever, but as long as you're just not either being evil about it, it's like it's a part of the game. So don't take it too seriously, guys.
That was a really good question.
Yeah. And this last question, again, Tower, you get 3 high fives. It's a really easy question to answer. And Abby, take it away.
I'm new to Commander and have never truly played. Is an official prepackaged deck good enough, or should I try to build one?
I'd say buy a prepackaged deck if you're new to Commander and you've never
Definitely.
played. Because
Definitely.
it's got everything you need to just literally play out the box. And from there, tuning a pre-built deck is much easier than building one from scratch when you don't know anything about the game.
Yeah, that's the biggest point right there. Is it's just so daunting to just build one from nothing.
Yeah, 99 cards.
So much better to just start with something, even if your idea is like, I'm eventually change every single card in here. At least you're starting with something, and now you don't have to go find 99 cards. You go find 2, take out 2, put 2 in, and then over the course of a couple of weeks, you take out 2 more, take out 5 more, take out 6 more, and before you know it, the whole deck's different. But you got to play it that whole time, and it didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I just have to build the whole thing right now.
Yeah, exactly. So great question. Thank you, Tower, for your trace questions. All right.
Hey, I
moving
recognize
on.
this guy. This
Yes.
guy always he always is putting in some questions for us.
That's right. Yes, at Jack Urbanus. So we're keeping the trend up of logical, straightforward Twitter names. Also, we should mention that Jack gets an honorable mention today because he created Commander card versions of Josh and myself.
They're awesome.
And they are awesome. I'm going to read mine. It's Jimmy the Red. I cost 5 straight red mana symbols to cost.
Red.
I'm a 4/3 legendary creature, human actor, which is hilarious. I have haste. All red cards cost 2 colorless less. All non-red cards cost 2 colorless more. When Jimmy the Red enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, then discard a card from your hand at random.
So you've got Gamble on a stick.
Yeah.
All non-red cards cost 2
I'm
more.
a
and
double
all-
ruby medallion,
Oh, man.
and I'm a hate bear.
How does Jack know you so well?
Yeah, it's amazing. And my flavor text, the only path is that of swiftness and chaos. Pretty amazing.
Okay, I'll read my card. I am Josh of many colors. I cost Wooburg.
Nice, just like Chromat.
I'm a legendary creature human podcaster, 6/6. When Josh of many colors enters the battlefield, search your library for a legendary creature, then reveal that card and put that card into your hand. When Josh of many colors leaves the battlefield, destroy all creatures unless they have Wooburg in their mana cost. And then my flavor text is, I need all the colors.
I love that flavor text.
Jack,
yeah,
you got us. You nailed us, man.
Yeah,
You
I
nailed
love
us.
the fact that Josh can play Chromat in this deck,
Yeah.
and he doesn't die when you leave the battlefield. Oh, it's amazing.
It's great.
Yeah. So thank you, Josh, for that. We much appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jack.
Oh, Jack, sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Josh, for being of many colors. And thank you, Jack, for the cards.
All right, let's hear Jack's first question.
What is your least favorite commander to see across the table?
Oh, boy. Sigarda really is tough to see.
That's your deck, isn't it, Craig?
I
yeah,
hate
and
seeing
D's as
Memnarch.
well.
I mean, honestly,
That's your own
It's
deck.
also your own
He
deck.
chose his own deck.
and
Craig,
I
when Craig
built
plays
it
Memnarch, you
because
play with
I
your eyes
saw
closed.
somebody else build this deck so unbelievably mean, and it's one of those things in Commander where you put something out and then somebody steals it. You're like, oh no! Like as
Yeah,
soon as people
that was
start
mine.
stealing your stuff, it's not
the
only
thing about Menmark, too, he can steal anything of yours. Like,
exactly
That's the brutal part.
and it's not even that it's not any fun. It's just like not any fun anymore. It's just like they start taking
Just put a
everything.
homeward path and you're good.
Yep.
Yeah, and then they steal that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I would say, well, Narset I think, is the most broken commander right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
She's just ridiculous. So I don't want to see that. And then I'm going to say Talrand, which is also Craig's deck. So between the three of us, we all said 3 of Craig's deck. That should make you feel good. Talrand is just...
Well, I mean, he's made 40 decks. There's a good chance he's hit upon some of the hated commanders.
That's true.
I've also built the ones that I think would be like the fastest, best.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's true.
You have mean decks, but you guys
you're
had
like an
that
F1
super
racer.
mean play group.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. I don't mind playing.
But I don't
against
think
it,
I don't
it's
think I've
mean.
ever built a deck other than like Gabe that I was like, oh, this is gonna be really cheeky. I've always been like, all right, what's the like cutthroatiest way?
quickest way to kill everyone.
Yes. Well,
That's why
Craig's
you
a
have
true
10
winner.
infect decks.
I'm not though. I lose so much.
Yeah, but it's great because when you win, you win. It's true. Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, I guess my other least favorite commander would be Talrand because I've played that deck many times now, and every time it's like, you know what? I bet I could, and no, you can't.
It's just disheartening because you just
It
go
is.
to do stuff and he just stops. He's like, no counter that, no counter that, no counter that, no counter.
And when he
that.
does
And I
counter,
think
hits you with a 2/2 flyer.
I think that's the point, is that both of them are mono blue generals.
Yeah.
You know, they both have tons of counter spells and
Yeah.
tons of ways
Yeah.
to be like, no, you don't untap your lands because only, basic lands untap now.
So it
and-
just becomes not that fun to play
Exactly.
against. Yeah. All right, Jack's got a few here also. He's going to get a lot of high fives. All right, next question from Jack.
What are your favorite pet cards?
We did a whole podcast about this. It was called Overperformers. Wedge from the Mana Source came on, and we did a list of our favorite overperformers. But I actually have a new one. Glacial Chasm.
Oh God. Why don't
This
you read
card-
it for us, Josh. This
Jimmy,
wonderful.
oh, God.
Well, it was amazing what it did on the board state. I was stunned by that card when it hit because I was like,
This is the card we were talking about where Craig rolled his dice with his infect deck and he decided to come after me, which meant I was basically dead by turn 5. And on the turn, I had 6 poison counters and he had on board an unblockable infect dude. And I was dead and I had to find an answer in my deck. And I really don't have a lot. And I managed to go off with Titania, draw like 20 cards, and I found this card. Glacial Chasm is a land. It has cumulative upkeep of pay 2 life. Cumulative upkeep, if you'll recall, is upkeep that continues to grow. So if it's 2 life, then on the next upkeep it's 4 life. Then on the next upkeep it's 6 life. So it grows by 2 life every turn. It
But
says
when you're facing imminent death, don't matter.
yeah, it says when Glacial Chasm enters the battlefield, sacrifice a land. Also a downside. So you know this thing's going to be powerful as all hell because it has not one, but 2 downsides. And one of the downsides just keeps getting worse. It says creatures you control can't attack. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you.
That's brutal.
The prevent all damage part is the part that is very, very hard. And it
Yeah.
actually plays on something about the format where people generally don't play land destruction in the format. So you might have a strip mine, and that's usually the only land destruction a lot of commander decks are going to have, maybe like a wasteland. So you put out Glacial Chasm, and it can basically buy you, if you have a way to keep it up, and I had a way to sack it and a Crucible of Worlds to bring it back, and sacking lands is good for Titania anyway. But I was thinking, like, in a Nekusar deck,
Oh yeah.
how often in Nekusar are you like, put out Nekusar, put out Font of Mythos, put out one other thing? Now it's just like, can I survive before they kill me because they're going to die naturally to card draw?
And
Well,
you're
if I
not,
put-
and you're not going to take it now because you can't be dealt damage.
Right. And so
Yeah.
I'm just going to put out Glacial Chasm and be like, okay, guys, if you can't destroy this land, you can't touch me.
Yeah.
And you just died all this Nekusar card draw damage.
Especially if you have like Life from the Loam or
Yeah.
Crucible of Worlds to be able to get that back. That's
And-
unbelievable.
And plus, you know, you can always let it go. You don't have to play that upkeep.
Let it go.
Did you?
It's a glacial
Elsa.
chasm too. It's
That's
very
true.
fitting, right?
It's very
Maybe
Frozen.
we'll get Abby to sing that as well because she sounds way better.
The only thing is you have to sack a land every time.
Every time you play it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about playing it many times. I think this card
yeah,
is very,
exactly.
very good if you play it one time and you just buy yourself 3 turns.
It's amazing in Titania though.
Because how many like big control-y type decks just are like, I'm so close and I just need to live for 2 more turns and then I can kill everybody.
Even like Niv Mizzet or something. You
Yeah.
have me thinking because I do have one of those. I should definitely throw it in Niv Mizzet.
It's not an expensive card. So
Yep.
Glacial
Something
Chasm.
where you're requiring your general who can do something else other than attack.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite pet cards, Craig?
Yeah, I have one actually that I was thinking that I'm not sure if you guys put in your review last time, but Grafted Exoskeleton is something that I put in almost all of my decks because the
Such a
pump
Craig
for
card.
It is.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
So
We've been talking about
infect,
effects all night.
it gives the creature +2/+2. And then one thing that I really love about it, this side feature, love and hate, is, if somebody steals the creature that it's attached to because, they're playing blue or whatever, I can then unattach my equipment and they have to sacrifice that card now.
Right.
So it is kind of like a steal prevention plan,
Right.
with a super kind of
Let
kill.
me read it really quick. If you're not familiar, Grafted Exoskeleton is a 4 mana cost artifact. It is an equipment. It says equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has infect. Infect is when a creature deals combat damage to other creatures. It does it in the form of -1/-1 counters, and when it deals damage to players, it does it in the form of poison counters.
Actually, it's not just combat damage; it's any damage.
Oh, sorry, any damage. You're right. And then it says, whenever Grafted Exoskeleton becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent, and its equip cost is 2. So I can't think of a more Craig card actually than that.
Yep.
And especially because Craig likes graveyard strategies, and there is strategy
Yeah.
to equipping this to someone for 2 and just sacking it. It's a
Yeah.
sack outlet for 2.
Well, unequipping it. Yeah.
Unequipping it,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and putting it on another
Which
creature.
I have used before. I mean,
Yeah.
it's multi-versatile, and typically my commanders are attacking for 10 damage or more.
Yeah, so it's
Or,
like put that on there, kill you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like have an answer or you're dead.
right.
My pet card is a card called Visions of Beyond. It's a 1-drop blue instant from M12, and it says draw card. If a graveyard has 20 or more cards in it, draw 3 cards instead.
If a graveyard.
A graveyard, right. So remind you of a card called Ancestral Recall?
Yeah.
Yes. Remind you of a card that got banned recently in Modern called Treasure Cruise? Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a card that has major upside. Now, obviously, this fails the quadrant test in the early parts of the game because
Right.
it's just a cantrip that doesn't do anything else. I put this in my Shu Yun deck, actually, because
Yeah.
your graveyard could have that much stuff in it if you're constantly putting stuff into it, or
And
someone
even in
else's.
Shu Yun, if you just draw 1 card, but you activate prowess, double strike something, that's still fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, drawing 3 cards is just an upside, but
Yeah.
just draw a card for 1 blue mana cantrip.
yeah.
Is really good in that deck. So yeah,
Not to mention,
card.
it's drawn by Therese Nielsen, who's one of my favorite Magic
yeah,
artists
the art
by
is
far.
sick.
I'm actually now considering putting this in Talrand because
Oh gosh!
a 1-mana
Why did I even
instant
mention
that
it,
then
Josh?
gives you-
Why did I even say it? Now we have more to deal
I don't
with.
know. I already said Talrand's my least favorite commander to see across
Don't
the table.
tell him
so
about
it's not gonna
Swan
be
Song.
more.
Do not tell him about Swan Song.
I always
You
thought
have
that
Swan
card
Song in
was
there, right?
like Swan Song.
Yeah, you gotta have that in there.
I don't actually.
It's the perfect
like,
card.
what?
It's full
No,
of
because
flavor.
it gives them.
Why do you
a
care if they
2/2
have
Why do you
flyer.
care? You're making 52 twos. They have 1.
Yeah,
they
but
can
I
block
mean,
1-year dudes.
Yeah, but it's like a targeted counter, and I have
It
hard
costs 1
counters.
blue mana. It's like Force of Will, but cheaper. Like you
So
would take how many?
interesting
passive
thing about the
negations would you put in
Talrand
there?
deck, mana is never a problem.
It's
Like
true,
it's
'cause you
always
just draw go.
True.
yeah, and it's like you
Lucky
always
you.
have enough mana.
All right, I'm tired of talking about Talrand. 'cause I hate that deck. All right, on to Jack's next question.
How do you deal with a play group where one person spends way more on cards than the others?
This is a great question as well. This is a toughie.
I don't think one of us does.
We all just spend a lot.
I think we all just spend too much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's true. But this is a very real
I've
question.
seen this
though.
happen though,
Yeah.
Especially in my early Magic days, where I learned in high school when it was still beta.
I think the younger you are, the more likely you're going to run into this issue.
Yeah, no, it happens. I think in normal playgroups too. Though there's usually like people have kids, they don't have unlimited funds to spend in Magic, and we don't
Right.
either.
Yeah.
And there's this arms race that can occur, and I would encourage you.
There's
That
also-
the arms race is the lazy way for this to happen. It's pretty lazy. Because the idea that like the expensive cards are just going to win you games is false.
Correct.
I have decks,
Especially in multiplayer.
yeah, I have decks that I built for $100, and I have decks that I built for $500. And honestly, some of the $100 ones are better than some of the $500 ones. So this idea that like a $1,200 deck, and we all have decks that are in that price range, or more, is going to naturally be better than a $100 deck is totally false.
Yes,
Right.
because infect decks are cheap.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of cards that are also response cards to the game breakers, let's say like a card like, I don't know, Go for the Throat.
Yeah.
That's a very good card that shuts down someone's very expensive creature card, There's lots of answers for someone that spends more to get more powerful things. And the other thing is, too, it's like you're playing in a group setting. It's very easy to hate out a player for playing in a way that you deem either oppressive to the table, and it could be they're always dropping a mana crypt on turn 1, and they're just getting out so far ahead that it demands that they get taken back a notch. I think you can outplay money in Magic the Gathering in Commander.
Well, you're going to have to
specifically.
spend something, right? They're spending money. You may have to spend time researching what cards.
Or, I mean, just team up against that person.
That's true.
I mean,
There is a self-policing.
yeah. Which, there's also, I would say, add more board wipes. Board is typically, or ways to get rid of their graveyard, or, find out what they're relying on with their money. Because, if they're going to dump a bunch of money into a deck, they're going to have it for a while. So find a specific answer, and maybe, if you feel like punishing them, punish them. I don't know.
Yeah. This is the one format where this question, because, in the format that's so spiky like Legacy or Modern, you can't have the second-rate cards to beat. Your deck is going to have a very finely tuned power level. But this is Commander, and I think this is one of the reasons I like Commander the most is because there's so much that isn't in your hands, but you can still kind of control that space, in between when you're playing. But at the end of the day, it's the more people you add to the game, the more variance there is, and money cannot decide a victor a lot of times in this game.
I mean, just don't use it as an excuse. It's very lazy to say, "Oh, they've got the more expensive cards, and that's why they're winning."
Is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of a cheap excuse.
It's a cop-out, Don't try and be like, okay, they've got expensive cards, but what can I find?
There are always answers.
Yeah.
There was a good friend of mine who, used to beat me all the time, and he had a big money mono red deck. And I purposely built a white and blue deck and just played Glaciers and would search it out and then play Glaciers every time and just shut him out because he literally all his mountains could
monster.
And it was you just basically, I don't know.
Yeah.
Turn their mountains into plains.
I would say Blood Moon is a very efficient way. That's not that.
But how are you?
Could you imagine if the person's
Wait.
like, I spent all my money on
Holy
dual
crap.
lands? You're like, oh,
going back to the one card we would ban.
Blood Moon?
Yeah. Oh, I totally dropped the ball on that. I said a card I liked rather than a card I hated. That's me rewinding the
back
entire
in time.
podcast.
Wait, now you're going to be running 40 minutes behind the rest of us. Josh is like, how's it? It's Josh Lee quiet. Craig, I'm like, well, this question, dang it. How do we mute him? He's so far behind now.
So this week on the podcast, we're going to be answering user submitted questions. All right. Just kidding. All right, one more question
from Jack,
which kind of related.
Yes, definitely.
Do you have any tips on being a Magic player on a student's budget?
Well, we talked about a really interesting way on the last episode with the professor from Tolarian Community College.
Right.
Puka Trade.
Yeah.
Is actually a really good way to sort of turn your collection that may be spread out. It may be not as focused on exactly what you want, and to, it's basically virtually, it's trading over the internet. Mm-hmm. And so it's a way to get full value for your cards and turn those cards, that you may not want into cards you do want. So you can focus your collection towards one deck or two decks or something like that.
Yeah, your what you consider a $1 rare or a 50-cent rare could be gold to someone else.
Yeah. I also would say, and this is, I'm gonna sort of, well, in the Warcraft days, you were a big Warcraft player, right, Jim?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in the Warcraft days, I actually became a big auction house trader.
Oh man,
on Warcraft, and I was one of those Warcraft millionaires. I think when I stopped playing, I had 12 or 13 million gold.
Very
this
fitting.
Is a long
Very
time
fitting.
ago. And you can learn the market, and Magic is like this too, and that can be your trick. People are going to spend money on their cards. You can spend time to learn your market and learn where your edges are, and you can just slowly grow your collection by just sort of knowing oh, this card right now is likely to go up in price, or it's trending up, or, listen to the Brainstorm Brewery podcast. Our friend Jason Alt is one of the hosts there. He was on one of our shows, and learn about the market, the economy of Magic, and you can leverage that, and your knowledge of that to, trading in value.
You could always also ask Alex Kessler at Kess Wiley, who did a couple Mad Magics back in the day, and
which was another
may start
finance
something
show.
like that again. Which that kid is a phenomenal. He's right 70 to 80% of the time, which is high for a stocks trader essentially.
Yeah. So what you can do is you're going to have to give something towards it. You're going to have to the equity that you're giving, somebody else is giving money, you can give time to it, and you can use that time to research and find out how the market works, and you can sort of eke out your edges there, and you can grow your collection that way.
Yeah.
For sure.
Great questions. All right, on to our next questioner, and it's another person that we're familiar
Hey,
with.
I know this guy.
It is Mr. Vincent T. At
Vincent Trong.
Vincent Trong. At V is for Vincent. I like that too. It's got the name and a little flavor at the beginning.
V is for Vincent. I thought it was for victory, but
I thought it was for Vendetta. So
I
man,
thought
we
it
were all
was-
confused.
I thought it was for Vincent.
Yo, so,
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy wasn't.
I'm going
confused.
back to Final Fantasy VII days, though. I thought it was always for Vincent.
All right, take it away, Abby.
What commander decks are you planning on bringing to Grand Prix Vegas?
Vincent, doesn't mean you're going to be there?
Wait, Vincent,
Please
are you
go to
trying
GP
to get
Vegas.
advanced information so you can like start hating out our decks right now?
Oh my gosh.
Vincent plays our LGS, by the way, so he's a buddy of ours.
I hope you're coming to GP Vegas.
You better be now.
I answered this on Twitter. The answer was all of them.
Are you really bringing all your commander decks?
I mean, they fit in one case, so why not?
Craig, you're not bringing all yours because you have 5,000.
yeah,
You can't carry them. Like, you would actually need to check another bag.
So I have found out though that the holiday gift boxes can fit 12 decks.
So you only need 7 holiday gift boxes to carry all your decks.
So I'll probably be bringing 12 decks.
I'll probably bring 8 or 10. It's a
Yep.
good round number.
But
They
among
fit
them
all in
will
one bag.
definitely
Yeah, that's
be what's his name?
An infect deck.
Probably not actually. Maybe I'll probably bring
25% of your decks are
I'll
infect.
bring 1 or 2. Fine.
You need to bring one because you're going to get mad at some point and just be like,
Right.
I want to win or at least kill someone.
Well, I'm definitely bringing my 2 mono blue decks in case we
don't
play
bring both
2-headed
mono
giant.
blues. Oh,
And
God.
then
I want to be on his team then.
who's my
Yeah,
graveyard guy?
Carador?
Carador.
How do you not remember Carador's name?
Blank out sometimes.
We know your decks better than you know.
Yeah, exactly. Because we've had to
Yeah.
face them.
I'll probably bring like two mean decks, like 6 like middle of the road
Yeah.
decks. The Chromat deck for sure, and
Oh,
then one
definitely
super dirtly deck that's just like
Yeah.
in case we get because people come up at events like this and they want to play with us, and I like to play a nice deck in that case because you never know, and I don't mind.
Yeah, you
losing.
never know. You might be playing against someone that could be famous, could have a lot of influence.
Who, Jimmy Wong?
No, not me. I don't know. I was thinking some pro would sit at the table and you just wouldn't
Pros
know.
don't play Commander.
I know.
I mean,
it's
we'll get to play
like
with BDM and
they're pros in my book, and Marshall, they're pros.
Okay.
They're pros at what they do.
So, well, then we're all pros. I mean, we get paid
Yeah,
to
exactly.
do something.
Well, Josh, I hope you play that nice friendly deck because I'm going all in.
Whoa. Where'd that mean voice come from?
I'm just messing around.
You had the Batman voice on me.
It was Jimmy the Red launching into action.
Whoa.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I'm bringing all my decks, but that's only like 6 commander decks. So, what I'd say actually, it's funny because my decks are split into the same way. It's like 2 of them are mean, few of them are just more multiplayer, and then one's just really like, I'm trying to exist as a deck. Watch me do things. Please don't kill me. All right. Next up, we got a question from Elias at Inexplotch. I hope I said that right.
Inexplotch.
Inexplotch.
How do you feel about Iona? I run her in my junk deck, but I've heard a lot of negative feedback about that one card.
Iona and Blood Moon exist in this similar space for me. Now, I hate
it's
Blood
true.
Moon above all other cards, but I'm not a big fan of Iona. I don't get mad if people play it, whatever, but it is kind of...
What? You get more mad at Blood Moon than Iona?
Yeah, because Iona doesn't actually stop you from doing anything.
True.
Most of my decks are like let's say, like I have 5-color decks. Like, okay, it turned off 20% of my deck. At least it didn't turn off my ability to kill Iona.
Right.
Now, if I'm playing a monocolor deck,
Yeah.
again, I was playing the other night and some guy played Iona on me, and I was like, okay, you win. I'm not mad, but
Yeah.
was that like, okay, do you want to shuffle and play again? Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to sit here and wait until you kill me? But I can't cast a thing. I'm playing a monocolored deck. Like,
Right.
the game's over. It's fine.
I mean, you're relying on your other players to save you at that point, if
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
any other players.
As a reminder, Iona is 6 and 3 white for 9 total for a 7/7 flying legendary angel. And as Iona's Shield of Emeria enters the battlefield, choose a color. Your opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color. Now, this actually makes sense more to me now because I guess Blood Moon, you do have a chance. You still have basic lands. Iona is pretty brutal in terms of shutting down a whole
She's
part of the color pie.
unbelievably
Well,
brutal.
against a monocolored deck,
Yeah,
it's literally like
brutal.
you're done.
Yeah. Unless your Steel Hellkite can somehow save you.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have Navinral's disc,
Yeah.
something like that, but you also have to draw it. It's pretty brutal against a monocolored deck. Even against a dual color deck, it's really tough. This 50% of your deck is gone. Blood Moon I hate worse because I have so many decks that just only maybe don't have a single basic land, or maybe only have 2 or 3 basic lands. And so what Blood Moon comes down and literally like I can't cast anything, and I have cards that'll kill enchantments, but I can't cast them.
Yeah, because red's not going to do that for you.
Yeah, so that's the thing that really feels bad about Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Iona is just one of those cards that's like I don't play her. I wouldn't play her because
I think she's a little more fair because she does die to removal, creature removal, and there's a lot of that in every color.
And she costs 9 to get out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna line, when I heard that they're gonna print possibly angels for this next
from the vaults.
I
vault
doubt
stack,
that this will be in there.
they went through my head. Like,
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
that
just
be
don't think they
nice?
want to encourage that type of gameplay
Yeah.
because it's again, I'm not mad, and it's fine. People play it, and we've seen it, and it doesn't make me angry at all.
You're saying that like my girlfriend says it when she is mad.
Yeah.
And it's not fun.
Sorry. I mean, I actually don't. It gets an eye roll. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I feel about it. I'm like, okay, you played Iona. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you win now. That's fine. But
I
it just
think
it doesn't promote a type of gameplay that feels very fun, which is it just like you didn't have to do 2 or 3 things to lock somebody. You just literally play one card,
Yeah.
lock them. Okay. But
Yeah.
if that card literally said, like, let's imagine you played a card and it said, target player dies.
Right.
That
Like, would that be a fun card?
Absolutely
some
not.
people.
And I think she's so much more brutal than Avacyn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Avacyn-
Avacyn is already a super powerhouse, and to have something that's like, oh god,
I think the problem with Iona is also that when you play her, it's a card that bends the world of the game in a way that doesn't actually promote more gameplay, if that makes sense. Right? You're actually actively stopping someone from using the cards in their hand, and that is really oppressive from like a game design perspective as well. So that's why I think people have such a negative reaction to her for sure, and the same goes for Blood Moon. Now, I think if you can do it, if you can play a card like this, but use it in a way that's not just meant to be straight oppressive, then great. But it's very hard, I think, to
I
find
mean,
that balance with this
Iona
card.
just does one thing. Like,
Yeah,
there's
she
not
does
a
it-
way to play her that's different than the way she plays.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you know, I mean, I guess what you could do is if you're playing and there's a monocolored deck and a couple of other decks that aren't monocolored,
Mm-hmm.
you could just purposely not point it at the monocolored guy because you're
That'd
playing.
be true,
Because
yeah.
if you pointed at the monocolored guy,
Who's it helping?
you're saying you're playing the card that says target player dies.
Yeah.
You know, this is, you know, Iona is almost enough reason for me to put Strip Mine, Wasteland, Dust Bowl, and Crucible of Worlds all in all my decks. Because the one recourse I have, and you guys have seen me do it.
True.
I think I did it to you once, Craig.
No, yeah.
Where you played Iona
Yeah,
targeting me, and I was like, well, I can't win now, but I can make sure you don't win. And I just started strip mining, Crucible Worlding you. It's like, this isn't going to make me win, but it's just like, and you're actually crap and sacrificed Iona.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it was like,
Yeah.
and that's like, you can sort, there's little tricks you might be able to do, but I mean, that's pretty rare. You'd have to have that stuff. You'd have to draw it. You know, I just happen to be in that position, but at least I can strip mine you. At least I can dust bowl you, you know, at least I can wasteland you. Like, that's enough reason almost to put those in the deck, just in case somebody pulls out Iona or some crap like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't work against Blood Moon though,
Oh,
because it turns your strip mine into a stupid mountain.
yeah, it's true. Oh, Blood Moon. One of my favorite cards now, just because Josh's, and that's our meta, is that card
Yeah.
is still in decks because I know that Josh
yeah.
is going to get a raise out of it. And you know what?
It doesn't, but you know I'm going to just kamikaze you mindlessly as soon as you
Yeah,
play
no, I've actually run into the kamikaze a few times. I'm just like, well, yeah,
it. You know it
whatever.
though.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's actually more of a slow burn than Craig's just mill you to death in one turn, so I think it's a little more acceptable to me. Our next question comes from Waffle Cone. I hope that's your real name. It's not probably. And his Twitter is WC Power 9. So nice. Got Waffle Cone.
Waffle Cone
and
Power 9.
Power 9 in there.
Wow.
Or it could be Wizards Coast Power 9. Who knows? Who knows?
I think it's probably Wizard Coast. You know, his name's Waffle Cone. It's probably not Waffle Cone.
How do you encourage deck building to a player that only plays one deck?
This is tough because,
This
you know,
is
it's
tough,
hard
yeah.
to make people like things that they don't like. You know,
or
what I mean?
something that they didn't build. Like, I've tried to do this before because I've tried to get people in before by having them play my deck and, you know, like one of
Right.
my other decks. And some, you know, that has worked at times, but usually it doesn't.
I think that works when your deck, like if you gave him an infect deck and said, this is infect, so this is how you're going to play it, and give him a like quick 2-sentence tutorial and then said go, that can work. But if the deck's complicated,
Right.
then they don't get it. They don't know every card. They don't know what order to play the cards. It's too complicated, and then it won't like light that little fire under them. That's like, this is fun. I want to build one of these on my own.
Right.
You know, I think there are just certain personality types too. Like some people just like to have 40 decks.
Yeah.
And some people really like to have one, and they like to just, it's more fun for them to go to the card shop and buy a $50 card that they're going to trade out for a $10 card or whatever. I'm just using money it doesn't always have to be that way, but buy one card and slowly improve their one deck. And for me, I'll never do that. Like there's so many cards where I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome in this deck. But for that, I could build a whole nother deck, and I'd rather have another one.
The reason that I have 40 decks is because I actually have less than 30, 27. But
At one point, you had almost 40.
I
though.
did. I had quite a few more. But the reason that I do is because I have two unfortunate traits. One is that I cannot stop building decks. I see.
It's not an unfortunate trait.
You know,
You're
it's
definitely
like
the
you
master
see a
deck
new,
builder of the
a
group.
new card comes out, and it's like, oh my God, I could turn that into this, and I have this card that I've never been able to use before, but I've wanted to, and now
Right.
it's perfect for it. And then my other trait is that I get so like nostalgically attached to those decks that are mine.
That you never want to take them
I
apart.
built those.
Yeah.
Those are different from anything that's on, tappedout.net.
Yeah.
Because I took all of them and I went through all of them, and I was like, no, the best way to make it is actually like this.
Right. Yeah,
So-
I think so. I guess the question I would have for this question is, why do you want your friend to build another deck? Is the one deck annoying you? The fact that they have one,
Right.
the fact that a person only has one deck can be bad for the play group.
Right, because it just gets powered out past everyone else's, or it gets built in a way that
It just gets stale.
it gets stale as well.
It can get boring for you. It's like, not only the deck you're playing matters, but the deck you're playing against matters, and playing against the same deck all the time, even if you're switching yours, can get old. And,
Yeah.
in situations like this, I say just talk to the person.
Yeah, ask them and maybe see what, why are they having any kind of trepidation about building a deck? Is it the cost? You could talk. I guess you could sponsor people. Craig sponsored me into my first deck by just giving me a bunch of cards, and it helped so much because it was like,
Give you some direction.
yeah, it gave me direction. It gave me a place to start out with. That's why I like the Commander pre-builds, is because it just gives you a really great starting base.
I've done that with a few people, and actually, the one person that I did it with that I basically gave them their deck was Sam Kellett, and he wrote top decking for us, but he also was the one that I used to play one-on-one against a lot because he was my roommate. And I always wanted him to build another deck, and he to this day still hasn't. But
he's got one deck.
But
It's good.
what he did start doing was start borrowing some of my decks, and he'd be like, "Oh, I want to try out Sigarda. Oh, I want to try out Kalia." And now he loves playing Kalia, and he loves playing Rafik, and he loves using some of my decks because now he knows how to play them, and he knows exactly what to go for.
That's a good suggestion, actually, is, maybe you're never going to get them to the point where not everybody's got that deck building gene.
Right.
Some people just like to play. And so, maybe you can get them comfortable with playing another one of your decks. And then they basically have two. They have one of yours and one of theirs.
Especially if they've played against your deck a lot.
Yeah, then they
now
know how
they
it works.
know how it works and what combinations can really go off.
Yeah. All right. Waffle Cone has a couple more questions.
Yeah.
On to the next one.
I think we'll combine these two because it's kind of fun to maybe talk about them in
All right.
conjunction.
Abby can read them both.
All right, here we go.
If you could make any creature legendary, what one would it be?
I want Mystic Monastery Mystic, whatever that new guy, or
The
Soulfire.
prowess?
No, you know what? I want Soulfire Grandmaster.
Well,
yeah.
that's just broken with
I know.
with the extra turn thing, but yeah,
but it's
that's
so
No,
crazy.
Prophet of Krufix.
yeah,
Come
Prophet
on.
of Krufix.
Oh,
Stop
come
it.
on.
Stop it.
Prophet of Krufix.
Like,
Can we make
there's
Sarah
no
Ascendant
really
a legendary
good
creature?
blue-green
Oh my
general?
God,
and
Sarah Ascendant.
Sarah Ascendant.
That's like
Sarah Ascendant would be a terrible general.
All you
it
do
would
is
be an
Sarah
all-right
that'd be
Ascendant.
general.
awesome. You get a
It
first
would
turn
be
every time.
You could literally
time,
build
yeah.
a deck with just Sarah Ascendant and then white mana.
Yeah.
That's
True.
It's like the Ashling deck,
Yeah, it's like the Ashling deck.
but it's even better.
yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
The Prophet of Krufix, though, would just be
so broken.
so
Yeah.
broken.
So broken. It's broken as it is.
It is.
Maybe I want, you know what? I'm going to go crazy. I want Jeskai Barricade to be a legendary creature.
What?
Because it just comes in at flash speed. You can always just cast this crazy flash
So
recursion
broken. It's got
thing.
flash. It's
I
just
don't know.
04.
I don't know. I'm just like, I like it bouncing stuff. Maybe build it. I feel like it would be something that's super built around me if I wanted to do a creature, because all the other creatures that are legendary, pretty much they do their thing, and the ones otherwise would just be broken, like Prophet the Crucifix. Would just be so broken.
Yeah. Oh, well, if you could change anything about the format, like Waffle Cone asks, what would you?
I would change the first question and say you can't make Prophet the Crucifix your commander. Because that's a ton of crap.
I would take Blood Moon out.
Yeah.
So that's Banlist.
Yeah, that gets us Banlist.
Let's see. What would I change about the format?
I
think I would up the amount of poison that you need to die because
No way. So I okay.
Perfect person to have this argument.
I
with.
will, if I have to, I will prove this by keep on playing the decks. It is
you will
impossible.
prove this by keep on playing the decks.
Yeah, because it
Well,
is
it's true. He just
not by
doesn't-
speaking good English.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't win with Infect against 4 people. Like, it has to be 10.
You don't have to
otherwise-
play Infect the way you play it, though.
Sure.
It's true.
I mean, but it's also
Craig's a
like
little all in.
you get
Can't wait to go to Vegas.
you
bud.
get you get hated out, and it's you get a target on your on your head.
Because Infect is so scary. Now, let's say
Yeah.
that Infect, you needed 15 Infect counters to die. Poison counters
First
to
of all,
die.
you'd never be able to do it. The creatures are too small unless you had grafted exoskeleton in some way for that not to die, because the creatures are so small, and then you have to have pumps, which are extra cards. So then you
Yeah.
have to have card draw, and then you have to have consistent ways of getting those cards back. I'm telling you, it's
I just think the
impossible.
format itself is not conducive to what Infect brings to the table because the format is naturally slower.
Mm-hmm.
So what an Infect player ends up doing in a multiplayer game is just taking out themselves and one other person. You know, you're going to
Infect
kill
is a
somebody
great way
almost
to
every
sneak
time.
out somebody else's demise.
Yeah, but
One
the Infect deck,
other
like you
person.
said, just can't defeat more than one deck usually. Maybe
Right.
2,
Yeah.
almost never 3. And so, to me, it's just like I think it would surprise you. This happens in economics all the time, whereas it looks like a downside, but I think it would actually be an upside because you wouldn't be so scary, so you wouldn't automatically like what happened the other night when
interesting,
you
right.
played your Infect deck. As soon as you played an Infect guy and started hitting people, every single other player started attacking you.
Right.
That wouldn't happen if poison wasn't quite as scary. If it was
Yeah.
like, okay, I can take a couple hits. It's going to take him longer.
Well,
but
in
the
a
fact
typ-
that it's
in a-
like literally one hit can kill me.
True. In a
Makes it-
typical game, it's it's twice as powerful. But in EDH, it's 4 times as powerful.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying is like if you just made it a little bit slower, it wouldn't be as scary. Then you could play it and the reaction would be different from the other players and it might actually get stronger as far as a strategy that can win at a table of 4 or more. Maybe it'll be weaker in a one-on-one game, but it's probably too strong in one-on-one
It's
now.
possible, but I've played it in enough games. I've played them in enough games now where it's very apparent that there's the people hate it out.
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying
it's-
is like, but it's because it circumvents the natural order of how the game works now.
Yeah.
And if it's closer to, like I said,
Yeah.
right now it's very easy for you to just in one hit kill somebody on turn 6 or 7. Like they don't know what's in your hand.
Typically, it is. You're going for
Yeah.
a one-hit kill.
Yeah, exactly. So if they knew that like that's just a lot harder and they're going to at least get 2 hits, then you're just less scary. They don't have to necessarily all team up on you right away.
Right.
They can wait until you hit them once and then do something. You know, it's a big difference, I think. I'm not saying it would necessarily like fix it. I do think it would be a little bit better.
It would. I do agree. It would also be better for gameplay as well, because obviously, with Infect, you're getting somebody out very fast, and unless you're also taken out very fast, or even if you are, now 2 people are sitting out of the game that could still last another hour and a half.
Yeah.
And
They
can
didn't really get much of a game. They got only 5 or 6 turns.
Exactly, and that can really suck, which is another reason that,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to take apart some of the Infect decks.
Mine's going to be a weirder answer. I think the thing I would change, and it came about, someone tweeted me earlier today. I guess Mark Rosewire thinks that hybrid mana cost should count if you're playing like a monocolor deck, but you could play in a hybrid mana costed card. And that it shouldn't be exclusive. For instance, like Yasova Dragonclaw is a teamer card because it has all 3 of the colors in it. I think it'd be interesting not to just necessarily try it out and see if it is something that would make or break the format or if it's something that is healthy for the format. But I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to change this about the format. If there was a way for players to be able to submit ideas for rulings or unbannings or bannings to like the collective...
The Rules Council?
The Rules Council, yeah. In a way that the community could inform how the game is played a little bit, because it is such a group game.
I think you
feel
could
like.
do that now. I mean, you got
It's
the
true.
Twitter for Sheldon Minery or anybody else. You could do it. I don't know that those guys have the time to be sifting through like thousands and thousands of
No,
people
of course
giving them
not.
suggestions. So I don't know. I want to call out AJ Adams at AJolt151 because he is the one that posted the Mark Rosewater question. I want to
Correct.
make sure he's still going to get his prize, even
Yes.
though we're folding it into this. His question, Abby, you can read it.
Do you agree with Mark Rosewater that hybrid costs should be allowed in a deck that goes outside the commander's identity?
Yeah, what you alluded to is that a hybrid mana symbol, so let's say a hybrid black-white, you have to be playing both those colors in your deck to allow a card that has a hybrid mana symbol in it.
Right.
You can't only have one of them.
Unless
And-
it's extort. It's in the rules text.
Yeah, it's a reminder text.
Yeah,
Which
reminder
is
text,
a
right.
weird
Yeah.
rule, which I think, earlier in the year they did the whole, who can be a commander and who can't, and they unbanned they unbanned
Kakusho, yeah.
Yeah, a couple others, and they banned a couple others. But I think in the same thing, with the hybrid mana for extort being excused from this, I've always wanted it to be that way, where you can use a hybrid mana symbol
Yeah.
in a monocolored or something off-colored. When I found out that the Garrick, that's the green-black one, he was perfect for a deck that I had that was playing green because green's in his casting cost, but because he flips over to black, I wasn't
interesting.
able to put him in.
Yeah. I think, the way the rules committee has explained this, and I actually agree with the rules committee here, which is that the format is about making you make choices. That's what the singleton thing is. They're not trying to help you obtain consistency. They actually don't want as much consistency. So they're not going to create rules that help you become more consistent or that help you do things outside of your color pie. That's the problem with hybrid mana is like if you're in red and you can use a hybrid blue-red card, then you have access to blue kind of.
Yeah.
And the fact is that makes mono red way more viable, or makes red white way more viable, because you have access to stuff you wouldn't have access to. And the way the rules committee sees it is that they want you to have to make those choices. If you're playing blue red, then you have to be willing to take the downside of that. And to be able to mitigate that downside so much more with hybrid symbols, I actually agree. I just think it'll make the format sort of more vanilla.
Right. I'm interested just to see what happens, because if something like crazy happens, because that just kind of sparks my imagination. Like if someone did something that was so wild and it was like, okay, wow, that's why we did it, because this color combination being able to use freely, like this card is half green, for example, like, but that is the reason because it was designed into that color space actually messes up some stuff. That's kind of what I want to see. So maybe
I just feel like, don't you feel like infinite combos
Right.
are just such a problem for our format? They're and I'm not against them, and I don't mind. I go infinite sometimes. Sometimes on accident you go infinite. Like everybody does it. It's not that this big deal. It's just that in general, infinite combos aren't great for the format. Like
yeah, they're just not productive. I don't think.
doing that is going to create more of them, not less of them. Do
Sure.
we really want to make a rules change that opens the door to more infinite combos? I mean, I feel like if we could, we would take more of them out. I mean, like I said, I'm okay with them.
I mean, the Johnny in me wants it to be like that because I want to see more stuff happen. But I do understand why you can't really.
There's already so much stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if there is one thing to be gained, though, I mean, I guess if you guys do have ideas, you can be vocal about it on Twitter, and you can actually talk to the people that make the rules of the game, and they can give you what they feel about it. So
And if they hear from enough people, they might change it. I mean,
yeah,
if they just
or
hear
they
it
might at
over-
least, at the very least, just bring it up in one of their meetings and be like, "Hey, let's check this out," because
Or-
that's what they do. Sheldon and those guys, I think they do a really good job keeping on top of the game, and they are active players as well.
Or create your own variation of it. We have a group of players over here who created their own version of EDH. They didn't like the way that it was played, so they only allow cards that had ever been able to be foiled.
Oh, right, yeah.
in their decks. And also, we were playing around at one point with a Cobra Commander idea where you can play these off-colored cards and things like that in a Commander deck, as well as we were talking about possibly even including like Power 9 and stupid stuff like that. But, you
pretty
create your own
wild.
variation. As long as your play group is cool with it, we'd love to hear what you guys have done that's caused interesting games to happen.
Yes, definitely. All right, well, that wraps it up for this week's episode. Thank you
Part
all
one is
for
over.
sending in your questions. Now, remember, if you guys heard your name mentioned or your app or your Twitter name mentioned, send us an email, commandcast@rocketjump.com, confirming that with a mailing address. and you're going to have some sweet, sweet prizes coming your way.
All right, guys, we'll do part 2 of all the rest of the questions next week, so be sure to tune in.
Yep, we'll talk to you guys soon. And Craig, thanks for joining us on this first part.
Thank you, guys.
All right, see you guys soon. Take care.
Peace.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.